Howdy. Oh goodness, look at that. So yeah, I'm in Big Sur. Spent the night on the side of the road here. Spent the past couple of days at Miracle Hot Springs over in the Sierra, Southern Sierra, just up Kern Canyon. Oh my goodness, look at that color. Look at that color. I mean, that's so beautiful. So do you notice did you see the palm trees? If we can make this, there we go. See the palm trees on the beach there? Pretty crazy, huh? I'm back. So I figured I'd give an update on, I haven't given an update in a while. So what's happening? Like I said, I spent a couple of days soaking over at Miracle Hot Springs on the Kern River, just east of Bakersfield. That was friggin' magnificent. And running around there and running up and down hills and stuff, building up my muscles from all the muscle mass I lost during my 26 days of not eating any food. And so where we're at is today is May 16th. The first week of June I have a PET scan and some blood work, and then on the 10th I have a consultation with my oncologist, and we're gonna, we'll know then if I'm cured or if we need to do more work. How I feel great, and even feeling around where these lymph nodes were swollen before, feels normal. But I did notice yesterday when I was in the hot spring, luckily, good, it's a good thing. I could still smell the cisplatin, the chemo, and I realized it's only been a little over 2 months since the last infusion on March 3rd or 4th, and so gonna try to get out of the wind here. Oh. So yeah, it's only been 2 months since the last infusion, and how you're kind of impatient to have, to get on down the road and get past all the stuff. Everybody wants to get back to normal, right? Which I think is friggin' hilarious, because that's never going to happen. It's so weird that everybody, the whole world is going through what I would be going through, even if the whole world wasn't going through all this, with the social distancing and the wearing of masks and all this sort of stuff, being immune compromised and all. I'm on my way up to see my sister in Pacifica, and her daughter, my niece. We'll spend tomorrow together. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what's been going on for the past month or so. Pretty much since I started being able to eat. So, there's the physical part of going through this cancer and recovery, and there's the psychological and the spiritual aspect, and it seems like the physical was just the launch point for what's going on psychologically and what's going on specifically with regards to the spiritual aspect. And just like what I was saying a moment ago about how everybody's going through what I'm going through in a way, or I'm somehow synced with the world zeitgeist. I have been really craving. I know everybody wants to get back to the world where we could just, be all social and everything, but I'm actually feeling the exact opposite. I want to be more in my more solitude. It's like I can't. Something's telling me that I need to be as still as I can, and away from other people's influences as much as I can, and to let whatever needs to emerge out of me through this, to let that happen, to empower that. And so what's been going on for the past month or so is, of course, there's a certain review of what's gone on since the diagnosis and everything. So much of what's gone on has been, just dealing with everything day to day, and sometimes that gets, the intensity of some days gets swept aside by the intensity of the next day, and but now I have time to reflect and realize, like I'll give you an example. The other day I was working on this piece of writing that I'd done several months ago, and I read something that reminded me of the night when I couldn't breathe because of that tumor in the back of my throat, and I totally forgot about that, because now I'm, I sound normal, I talk normal, I can breathe normal and everything, and I've kind of gotten back to being normal, right? And totally forgot the trauma of that, of waking up at 4 a.m. and not being able to get a full breath. And for the first time in my life, it never had that happen before, and luckily that was the day that I had an appointment to go to the oncologist and tell them that I was ready to start the treatments, and we were able to get it going pretty quickly. But that's just an example of, there's been so much going on, and I've been in so much of a, not so much survival mode, but just being very present with what's happening, that there are some energetic residue that comes from going through all this stuff that it's important to process, and in some ways grieve. There's sadness, but there's also joys. Like there was this one moment. One of my favorite moments of everything that's happened is when I was. It was in that period of the 26 days, and I think I hadn't even started drinking juice yet, so it was probably in the first 14 days of all I had was water. This is after the last infusion, and I was pretty weak, and I was going through. I had posted something, and it got a lot of reaction, and I didn't have the energy to do a whole lot that day, and so I was just curled up in the bed, and this was during that period where you didn't hear from me for a while. I was curled up in the bed, and I was going through reading what everybody had said, because I hadn't looked at it for days, and there was at least 100 responses, comments on it. and you know how people say, oh, I love you, I'm thinking about you, I'm holding you in my prayers and all that sort of stuff, and we just kind of shine that stuff on, you know. And but when I was lying in the bed there, I'm reading each one of these and, you know, responding with a heart, and it just started to overwhelm me, because I really actually felt that all these people from all over the world were just, you know, for that moment they were, you know, trying to shine some yum at me, you know, and support, and I felt the energy of it, and it just, you know, I just started crying. It was, you know, it was the first time in my life that I cried tears of joy. That's a thing, and which made me cry even more, you know. So you know, I share that because I want you to know it's you know, it's not all grief. It's, you know, there are parts of it that are really really amazing, and like I'd never really been up on Palos Verdes, right? And literally when I was, there's a photograph on Facebook of me in the hospital, sitting there with all these needles in my arm, and but what you can't see is I'm sitting in a chair and I'm looking out this hospital window. I'm like on the 6th floor of this hospital in Torrance, and all I can see out the window is Palos Verdes. And I was like, you know what? I've never really been up on Palos Verdes, and as soon as I'm out of here today, as soon as this, you know, takes 6 hours to do the infusion, you know, you're sitting there with these needles in your arm for 6 hours, and I said, as soon as I'm done out of here, I'm going to go drive up there and drive around and see what that place is like. You know, and here I've been in LA for 30 years and I've never really explored it. And so that's what I did. As soon as they pulled the needles out, man, I was down to my car and I drove up to Palos Verdes and drove around, and it was just a wonderful, you know, it was just wonderful. It's just like, because I don't know if you know about Palos Verdes, but it's like, it doesn't seem like you're in California. You know, it doesn't seem like it definitely doesn't seem like you're in LA. You know, it's such a bizarre place. It has a feeling, it in a way it does feel like Big Sur in some ways, you know. But anyway, what's about to happen is more rest, more working out and building up my body, you know, keeping my fingers crossed for you know, a good outcome in the beginning of June. You know, where are we? That's the 15th. In 3 weeks we'll find out if I'm cured, and if I'm not, then we have there's an option to explore this proton therapy, which is kind of a targeted radiation treatment, and so we'll see if that's going to be necessary or not. I want to kind of show you a little bit. You see how I don't really have any whiskers anymore? That's because from here, and you see how my mustache is kind of sparse. It's because basically from here to the base of my neck was irradiated, and this is they told me that was going to happen, and they told me that I would probably not lose all my hair, but that I would definitely lose the back here. I can't really see it, maybe you can, but this right back here feels as bald as this right now, and radiation is cumulative, so it takes you you know, it's still happening in me. This just like the chemo is still in me. It's, you know, it's probably going to be there for at least 6 months. Unfortunately, you know, my taste buds haven't come back completely yet. Chicken still tastes like napkins, and but I eat it anyway just because I need the protein for sure, and the calories. I probably weigh about 173. When at the depths of this whole experience, I was down to about 150. When this whole thing started, I was at 199. And, you know, I could definitely have lost 20 pounds at 199. But now I'm, you know, that 173 is a lot of muscle. It's more muscle than I don't have a lot of body fat now. But I'm a healthy weight, and I feel very fit. I've been running just about every day, if not every other day. And it feels wonderful. You know, it's like I've said this before. It's like I've got a new body. You know, right now I weigh my playing weight in college, my football playing weight in college, and so spiritually, you know, I'm on this shamanic journey, and that's why I say there's no going back to normal, and there's no normal to go back to for me. It feels like everything's new from here on out. I don't know what that's going to look like, but obviously the universe still wants me here, so I'll just keep churning it out. So I'm in this I lost get out here. I lost the dreadlocks that were in the back of my head here, and here's one of them. This just started happening this week, which tells me that I'm still, you know, the good thing is it's still working on the cancer, the radiation and the chemo. And I figured this is a good place to kind of let it go symbolically. And so here we go. Whee! I lost a whole lot of them back here. And every time I put my hand back there and feel the baldness of the back of my head, it's like, it reminds me of what's been happening and what I've been going through. And as much as we want this to be, you know, over quickly and back to normal, it reminds me that that's not what's happening here. I've been launched into a whole new trajectory, and I don't know what that's going to look like. So, but I feel wonderful. I feel very clear. I still have Randall's car, and that means I haven't yet found the Sprinter van to move into yet, but I have been able to save some money in hopes of the right Sprinter van showing up, and I might be eligible for what am I saying? I might be eligible. I've applied for. It's kind of funny. They have this, the stimulus thing, right? Self-employed people are now able to apply for unemployment, and so in a way, it's kind of like severance pay for. Because the city of Los Angeles closed the boardwalk on March 23rd, and so I couldn't work out there even if I wanted to, and so that makes me eligible for unemployment, unemployment assistance, which is kind of funny. So. I got an approval letter, but I haven't seen dime one yet. I'll believe it when I see it. But so I got that working for me, and that may help me get, a van together. I'm hoping to make it to the Cape this summer. There's not going to be any rainbow gathering, and there's not going to be any this year. The rainbow gathering's been postponed to 2021 in Idaho, and there's not going to be any Burning Man this year. So, but I'm definitely feeling like doing more hot springs, and David's hot spring tour, and making a trip to the Cape. That's kind of my focus. And in the meantime, I don't know if you noticed, but I posted, I started drawing again, the next episode, the 11th, I posted the 11th episode of the Enoch book movie on its channel and whatnot, and I posted on Facebook last week, and I'm working on chapter 12, episode 12. And I finished and published the natural history book about 2 weeks ago, which feels magnificent. I've been working on that project for 10 years, and it's done. It's my 29th book. And I'm working on number 30. It's called The Metaphysician. And I think a lot of the shamanic stuff that's been coming through this experience with the cancer is kind of getting channeled through the metaphysician and project, because I've written about 70 pages of it so far, and most of those I wrote when I was here in December, when I was in Big Sur in December on that journey to go look at the site. So I'm like I said, I feel really good. I keep saying that because I keep checking myself, and I'm like, I feel really good, which reminds me of another moment in this journey. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I got diagnosed on September 19th last year, and for the first 2 months, until I think it was like the 10th of November, I didn't know how long I had to live, and and then when I knew that I wasn't going to die immediately, like they weren't saying, well, you've got a couple of weeks or something like that. It was still kind of left vague if I would make it to through the winter, and there were times along the way where I wasn't sure if I would make it to see May, and here it is, it's May, and I'm in the middle of it, and I'm reminded of just how lucky I am, because there are so many people that I've met along the way that some of whom didn't make it. Some people that were diagnosed the same time as me didn't make it, and I know why they didn't make it, because of how hard it is and how challenging it can be if you're not healthy enough to go through something like this. You know, there was I know there's two other people that, you know, a lot of you folks know as well, who you know, the rainbow people, actually 3, 4, 5 other people, one of which has died this winter, and the other four are wrestling with very similar things to what I am. Two have the same exact thing as I do, and two have something similar in the same place, but it's a different kind of cancer. And you know, these folks, they had it around the same time I did, or just before, and they're you know, they're still wrestling with it. And you know, I feel very, very fortunate to be able to be sitting here right now saying this to you. Because while I read all these people saying, "Oh, you got this, so you've got this. You'll be all right." I'm not saying that you're dying or anything like that. It's you'll make it through and all that kind of stuff. It was never a foregone conclusion, and there were many times, you know, more times than I wanted to let people know about, or will ever be able to let people know about, where I just saw death. You know, I saw that if I didn't go this way, I was going to die. If I went that way, I was going to die, you know? And, you know, there was one day when I saw death 3 times, you know? And one of those times, it wasn't like death was threatening me or something like that. It wasn't trying to scare me. It was just literally showing me itself, you know? And so this is, you know, part of the shamanic stuff I've been talking about or referencing, and I won't be able to you know, I'll never be able to articulate it all, and not even for myself, you know, but I just wanted to communicate that there's more going on here than just the physical parts, and it seems like the more that's going on is actually more profound than the physical parts, you know. And I want to make mention of this thing. If you look at my Facebook feed, you'll see that there's this, I keep referencing the global population thing. So I'll just run it down real quick. There's the base frequency of the Earth, the frequency that the Earth vibrates at, is 7.8 hertz. That means cycles per second or vibrations per second, right? And this vibration is caused by all the lightning strikes on the planet that happen every day. It's between 3,000 and 4,000 lightning strikes a day. And it vibrates the planet like a bell, right? And that aggregate total vibration works out to be 7.8 vibrations per second. The optimum meditative state is when your brainwave pattern is between 6 and 8 cycles per second. Ideally, 7.8 cycles, vibrations per second, right? So that's called the theta state. That's the optimum meditative state, right? Now, the population of the world, I've been watching this for like 20 years, you know, just kind of fascinated at, I'm wondering what would happen when the population of the world reaches the same, you know, is in a harmonic with the base frequency of the Earth, right? So right now, the population of the world is 7.785, right? And at the rate that it's going, It will actually, if you round that up, it's 7.8. But when it actually will reach 7.8, will be, by my calculation, it will be around the first week of June. Could be just before, could be just after, but I believe it'll probably be around the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, somewhere around that in June. But when we pass that benchmark. And so I think it's really fascinating how the whole, planet has, as we approach this, it's like somebody is pumping the brakes as far as the whole world culture is going on. It's like, you couldn't have scripted it. You know what I mean? If you said, oh yeah, the whole world is just going to come to a standstill as we approach that benchmark, nobody would believe you. But here we are, and we don't know how it's going to play out. I think it's entirely positive. It's not it's not a negative in any way. I think it's really wonderful because it's brought everybody to a meditative place, where people are having to reassess, what the heck, what am I doing here? What's the point of my existence? And it's interesting how we individually and collectively react to these conditions, I think it only gets better from here. So, and I think that one of the main things about everything that's happened, both for me personally and for the whole world, is each person is being given, it's like the universe is saying, you really need to appreciate the fact that you exist. Just start with that. Let's just start at a baseline. That isn't it wonderful that we exist today? That you woke up today and you get to walk around and breathe in and breathe out, and you get to appreciate something like a flower or the wind or a bird or just the fact that you're alive. You get to appreciate your own being, and that's obviously when you face death, that's one of the best things about living is that you're still living. So and at the same time I realize I don't actually, I'm not afraid of dying anymore. Not that I ever was, but now having been to the precipice, I know that I'm not afraid of dying. What I have been afraid of is wasting my life. Who wants to live a life where you've just basically wasted it? Where it doesn't feel like it's very significant. Like I'm not making the most out of what I've been given. That's a big part of why I wrote all those friggin' books. I wanted to have some kind of impact. Not that that's happened, but it's more likely to have happened having completed those projects than having those projects to complete. There you go. That's a good way of putting it. The fact that my to-do list is shorter, way shorter than it was, 5 years ago. Is magnificent. It feels so wonderful to have this stuff behind me than in front of me to have to do. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited about what comes next, because it's wide open. I have all the experience of creating all this work, and now what kind of work am I going to create now? I'm really excited to see what that is. What does that look like? In a way, I feel like I'm just getting started, and having gone through somewhat of a rebirth, and or going through it right now, really. So I want to talk about, there's one other thing I want to talk about that I had a kind of a revelation the other day. I saw clear as day. I filled out a tax form for the first time in my life. I still haven't gotten the stimulus for some reason, but I filled out, in order to get it, I filled out their short tax form thing, and because I never made enough money to pay taxes or to file taxes, so it didn't, it wasn't a thing. But I figured, I'm trying to get this band together, and so I might as well try to get the stimulus. And going through that whole process, the other day, it says I saw my life from a perspective that I've never seen it before. And I saw that I've, in a way, and I knew I did this on purpose. I decided when I was in high school that I would never, I don't know about never, but for the most part, I wouldn't make enough money to have to pay taxes. And at the time, that was around $2,000. And for the most part, that's exactly what's happened, So I financially handicapped myself. And for years, I didn't realize that number had gone up. The $2,000 thing had gone up. So for years, like the first, in my 20s and 30s, I was well into my 40s. I was making less than $2,000 a year. There were 2 years when I made $300 and 1 year when I made $500. And I and a lot of other people, when they look at me, they see me as I feel like one of the wealthiest people in the universe, And as far as wealth and fame, I feel really wealthy, which is kind of funny. And I feel in certain circles, I feel like there's a certain amount of fame or notoriety that's come to me through my work, but what I saw the other day was I saw the effect of being financially handicapped. Financially handicapping myself, what the effect of that is on myself and the people the people that I've known, the people that I've interacted with in my life. I saw it like it's like somebody just flipped put a set of lenses on my eyes, and I could see it. I saw all the connections and everything like that, and it was just like, my goodness, look at that. And at that moment, I chose differently. I chose not to. I was like, why am I handicapping myself? It's not necessary, Can we stop that now? Certainly it was the choice of a high school kid. But it doesn't have to be the choice of a 62-year-old man now. Yeah. So anyway, True Confessions. Now let's take a moment and try to remember if there's anything else I wanted to share. I went back to that place where the snake crawled across my leg yesterday and the day before. And this whole journey has been very scorpionic, this serpent and spiders. And the other night I was camped up by the hot springs and I put up my tent. And I was laying down I just, closed my eyes, and I hear this really weird sound right outside the tent and right on top of the tent and around the tent and everything. And I'm like, what the heck is this? But something said, not to be in fear, right? And finally, this whatever this thing was that was right outside the tent, it came to a place where I could see its shadow. I could see its shadow against the tent, and it was a bat. It was a bat that was feeding on the moths and stuff that were attracted to the tent. And so bat medicine and serpent medicine and spider medicine, it's all scorpionic, you know. So yeah, we got that working for us. Scorpio is the sorcerer archetype, and you know, it has everything to do with divine communion through sex, death, transformation, rebirth, hidden knowledge, shared resources, power, immortality, reveling in the great mystery and sharing out its secrets. So I have Pluto conjunct my sun. Pluto rules Scorpio. I have 7 planets in the 8th house. The 8th house is ruled by Scorpio. So my sun and moon and everything, it's all, you know, ruled by Scorpio, but it's in Virgo. And I have Scorpio in the midheaven. So now would be the time when all that stuff is all plugged in and charged up and ready to rock. And it's rocking. Bruce Cranshaw! Great to see you, man. Ish. Here we go. Let me hit that thing there. Hoping to make it to the Cape in a couple of months. Probably July-ish. End of July. In August. Best time to be on the Cape as far as I'm concerned. Hope to make it over to the vineyard. If we can just stop all this craziness with like viruses and whatnot, that'd be really great, don't you think? Let's do that. All right. All right, it's time to say goodbye, and the way we do that is I beam you some love. This is me beaming love at you. I love that. Schmo! How you doing, man? Good to see you. Okay, so remember, we love you.